this scenario involving two residential buildings and the generator, we need to address grounding and bonding considerations to ensure safety and compliance with the National Electrical Code. The presence of multiple paths for neutral and grounding currents can be concerning, as the NEC emphasizes a single, central point for grounding and bonding. Firstly, let's discuss the relevant NEC requirement. Article 250.26c states that when multiple grounding electrodes are used, they must be connected together to form a single electrode system. Article 250.24 mandates that the service disconnecting means must be bonded to the grounding electrode system. Furthermore, Article 250.24b specifies that all non-current carrying metal parts must be bonded to the grounding electrode system. To address the grounding and bonding concerns in this scenario, I recommend the following solution. 1. Install a single grounding electrode system. Combine the ground rods of both buildings into a single electrode system using a grounding bar. This ensures a unified grounding reference point. 2. Bond the main service panels. Run a grounding conductor from the grounding electrode system to the main service panel in both buildings. This provides a direct path for fault currents to return to the source. 3. Bond the subpanel in building number 1. Run a grounding conductor from the main service panel in building number 1 to the subpanel supplying building number 2. This ensures that the subpanel is properly grounded. 4. Remove the neutral ground bond at the generator. This bond is typically installed for fault protection, but it should be removed in this configuration because the system is now properly grounded through the main service panels. 5. Verify continuity. Check the continuity of all grounding and bonding connections using a continuity tester. This ensures that all connections are secure and that a low impedance path to ground exists. It's important to note that building number 2 should be considered a separate structure from building number 1 and have its own service panel. Additionally, the generator should be isolated from the grid using an interlock transfer switch to prevent currents from flowing back into the utility. Regular inspection and maintenance of the grounding and bonding system is crucial to ensure its effectiveness over time. By following these steps, you can create a single-point grounding system that minimizes objectionable currents and complies with NEC requirements. This approach ensures a safer and more reliable electrical system for both buildings. Now, let's elaborate on each of these steps to provide a more in-depth understanding of the process. Firstly, installing a single grounding electrode system involves creating a common grounding reference point for both buildings. This is achieved by connecting all existing ground rods at both buildings together using a grounding bar. The grounding bar should be securely mounted and accessible for future inspections. The connecting conductors should be sized appropriately based on the size of the service entrance conductors, as specified in the NEC. Secondly, bonding the main service panels is crucial for providing a low impedance path for fault currents to return to the source. This is accomplished by running a grounding conductor from the grounding electrode system to the grounding busbar in each main service panel. The size of the grounding conductor should be determined based on the size of the service entrance conductors, as per NEC guidelines. It's essential to ensure that all connections are clean, tight, and corrosion resistant. Thirdly, bonding the subpanel in building number 1, which supplies building number 2, ensures that the subpanel is properly grounded. This is achieved by running a grounding conductor from the grounding busbar in the main service panel of building number 1 to the grounding busbar in the subpanel. Again, the size of the grounding conductor should be determined based on the size of the feeder conductors supplying the subpanel, as per NEC requirements. Fourthly, removing the neutral ground bond at the generator is a critical step in eliminating multiple neutral ground connections, which can lead to circulating currents. Most generators are shipped with a neutral ground bond installed for standalone operation. However, when the generator is connected to a building's electrical system, this bond must be removed to avoid creating a parallel path for neutral current. Consult the generator's documentation for specific instructions on how to remove the neutral ground bond. Typically, it involves disconnecting a bonding jumper or removing a screw that connects the neutral and ground terminals within the generator. Fifthly, verifying continuity is an essential step in confirming the integrity of the grounding and bonding system. A continuity tester or multimeter can be used to check the resistance between various points in the system, such as the grounding electrode system, the main service panels, and the subpole. A low resistance reading indicates a good connection, while a high resistance reading indicates a potential problem that needs to be addressed. In addition to these steps, it's important to ensure that all metal parts of the electrical system, such as conduit, enclosures, and equipment frames, are properly bonded to the grounding system. This helps to create a safe and reliable electrical system that minimizes the risk of electrical shock and fire hazards. Now let's consider some additional factors that may influence the grounding and bonding requirements in this scenario. The presence of other metallic systems, such as water pipes, gas pipes, and cable TV lines, can also affect the grounding and bonding. These systems should be bonded to the grounding electrode system to prevent them from becoming energized in the event of a fault. The NEC provides specific guidelines for bonding these types of systems. Furthermore, the type of wiring method used in the buildings can also impact the grounding and bonding requirements. For example, if non-metallic conduit is used, a separate equipment grounding conductor must be run with the circuit conductors to provide a path for fault currents to return to the source. On the other hand, if metallic conduit is used, the conduit itself can serve as the equipment grounding conductor, provided that it is properly installed and connected. It's also important to consider the local electrical codes and regulations, as they may have additional requirements beyond what is specified in the NEC. Always consult with a qualified electrician or electrical inspector to ensure that the grounding and bonding system is installed in accordance with all applicable codes and regulations. By carefully considering all of these factors and following the recommended solution, you can create a safe, reliable, and code-compliant electrical system for the 2 residential buildings and the generator. Remember, proper grounding and bonding are essential for protecting people and property from the hazards of electricity. Now let's delve deeper into the specific NEC articles mentioned earlier and explore their implications in this scenario. Article 250.26c addresses the requirement for a single grounding electrode system when multiple electrodes are used. This means that if both buildings have ground rods installed, those ground rods must be connected together to form a single, unified system. This is typically accomplished by running a grounding electrode conductor between the ground rods, using a grounding bar or other approved connection method. The purpose of this requirement is to ensure that all grounding electrodes are at the same potential, which helps to minimize the risk of circulating currents and voltage differences between different parts of the electrical system. Article 250.24 mandates that the service disconnecting means must be bonded to the grounding electrode system. The service disconnecting means is the main breaker or switch that disconnects the building's electrical system from the utility power supply. Bonding this disconnecting means to the grounding electrode system ensures that any fault currents that flow through the service equipment will have a direct path to ground, which will cause the overcurrent protection device such as a circuit breaker or fuse to trip and energize the circuit. Article 250.24b specifies that all non-current carrying metal parts must be bonded to the grounding electrode system. This includes metal enclosures, conduit, equipment frames, and other metal parts that are not intended to carry electrical current. Bonding these metal parts to the grounding system ensures that they are at the same potential as the ground, which minimizes the risk of electric shock if someone comes into contact with them while a fault is present. Now, let's discuss the importance of removing the neutral ground bond at the generator in more detail. As mentioned earlier, generators are often shipped with the neutral ground bond installed for standalone operation. This bond connects the neutral conductor to the generator's frame, which serves as the ground reference. However, when the generator is connected to a building's electrical system, this bond can create a parallel path for neutral current to flow back to the source through the grounding system. This can result in circulating currents, which can cause nuisance tripping of circuit breakers, overheating of conductors, and increased electromagnetic interference. To avoid these problems, the neutral ground bond at the generator must be removed when the generator is connected to a building's electrical system. This ensures that the neutral current flows only through the intended neutral conductor, and that the grounding system is used only for fault current protection. It's important to note that removing the neutral ground bond at the generator does not eliminate the need for a grounding electrode system. The grounding electrode system is still required to provide a path for fault currents to return to the source, and to ensure that all metal parts of the electrical system are properly grounded. The removal of the neutral ground bond simply prevents the grounding system from being used as a parallel path for neutral current. Let's also consider the role of the interlock transfer switch in this scenario. The interlock transfer switch is a device that allows you to switch between the utility power supply and the generator power supply. It is designed to prevent the generator from being connected to the utility grid at the same time, which could create a dangerous backfeed situation. The interlock transfer switch typically has two positions, one for utility power and one for generator power. When the switch is in the utility position, the building's electrical system is connected to the utility power supply, and the generator is isolated. When the switch is in the generator position, the building's electrical system is connected to the generator power supply, and the utility power supply is isolated. The interlock mechanism prevents both power sources from being connected at the same time. The interlock transfer switch is an essential safety device that prevents dangerous backfeed situations and ensures that the generator is operated safely and reliably. Finally, let's emphasize the importance of regular inspection and maintenance of the grounding and bonding system. The grounding and bonding system is a critical safety feature that protects people and property from the hazards of electricity. However, it can only be effective if it is properly installed and maintained. Over time, connections can loosen, corrosion can develop, and components can fail. Regular inspection and maintenance can help to identify and correct these problems before they lead to dangerous situations. The inspection should include a visual examination of all grounding and bonding connections, as well as testing of the continuity of the grounding system. Any loose connections should be tightened, corroded connections should be cleaned and re-terminated, and any damaged components should be replaced. The maintenance should also include periodic testing of the grounding electrode system to ensure that it is still providing an effective path to ground. The testing should be performed by a qualified electrician using appropriate test equipment. By following these guidelines for inspection and maintenance, you can ensure that the grounding and bonding system remains effective and provides reliable protection against electrical hazards. In summary, grounding and bonding are essential aspects of electrical safety, particularly in scenarios involving multiple buildings and generators. By adhering to the NEC requirements, implementing a single-point grounding system, and performing regular inspection and maintenance, you can create a safe, reliable, and code-compliant electrical system that protects people and property from the hazards of electricity.